Hi, today we're going to be working on area of parallelograms. So area of parallelograms. So when you have area, when they're asking you about area, don't forget area is the amount of space inside a 2D figure. So it's the amount of space inside of a 2D figure. In other words, two-dimensional figure, a flat figure. Whenever you're looking for area of anything, first thing you have to have, must use formula. Must use formula. Have to. You need to use a formula anytime it asks about area. This is going to be the most helpful thing that I can tell you to do. You need a formula. So let's go ahead and do a couple of examples. Let's start off with a square. So if you go ahead and just draw your square, the best that you can. And I'm going to have the measurements be 6 inches. Now, one thing that I'm sure that you already know about a square is that all of your sides are the same. So if this side's 6 inches, then this side would be 6, and this, and this. They're all 6 inches. The formula that we're going to use for a square or any parallelogram is A area equals BH. A equals BH. Well, what does B stand for? Let's put that over here. A equals BH. Well, we know A stands for area equals, the B is going to stand for base. And since there are two things next to each other, that means to multiply. And the H is going to be your height. So we have area equals the base times the height. So that's where our formula comes into play. Now, if we're talking about base times the height, so our area equals the base times the height. Well, if you're looking at your square, where's the base? You're right. The base is actually the bottom. The base is usually what it's sitting on. So the base is going to be 6. So the area equals 6 times, now how tall, what's the height of the square? Well, the height of it is 6. Then we just solve it. So the area equals 6 times 6 is 36. And it's inches squared, or square inches, depending on how you want to look at that. Anytime we're talking about area, doesn't matter what figure, anytime we're talking about area, it's always going to be squared or to the second power, because you're basically wanting to know how many little bitty squares could you fill that two-dimensional figure with. So that's why area is always squared. So now we've taken care of our square. Well, let's make a rectangle. I think I'm going to make it right over here. So there's my rectangle. And I'm going to say it's a rectangle. Just to remind you of what your figures are. Now, let's say the measurements for this rectangle. We're going to say this one is 10 inches. And this one is 8 inches. We're still going to use that formula anytime we have a parallelogram. Remember, parallelograms are two opposite sides are parallel. We need to have that formula. So, same formula. A equals base height. So area equals the base times the height. Well, now let's look. We have the area What is your base? What's your bottom? What is it sitting on? Well, your base is 10 times the height of, how tall is it, is 8. So we have 10 times 8, so my area equals 80 square inches. So it's 80 square inches. All right, let's try something else. Let's try a different parallelogram. All right, now the next figure I want you to put on your paper is going to be an actual parallelogram. So if you want to watch me draw it, and then you can draw yours. We're going to draw 2 parallel sides and 2 parallel sides. And we're going to have a slant. All right, now this is an actual parallelogram. It's not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's an actual parallelogram because these 2 sides are parallel and those 2 sides are parallel. So we're going to put some measurements in, and this measurement is going to be 9 centimeters. Our base is going to be 11 centimeters. And then we're going to do another one. We're going to actually do the height of the parallelogram. Now you might think this is the height, but it's not. This is actually the slant part of it. So if you wanted to make the height of this parallelogram, you're going to have to go in your corner, and you're going to go perpendicular up. In other words, you're going to go straight up. You want that line to make a 90-degree angle, which makes it perpendicular. Okay. That is actually going to be your height, and we're going to say it's 7 centimeters. All right. So now, if we're trying to find the area of this parallelogram, we're going to use that same formula, A equals BH, which means base times the height. Now, if you're looking for the base of this parallelogram, remember the base is usually what it's sitting on, and it does have to be the flat side. So my base is going to be 11 times the height. Now remember, your height has to be perpendicular or a 90-degree angle to your base. So you're right, it's going to be the 7. It's not the 9. The 9 is the slant. That's the side. So then if you multiply 11 times 7, you get 77. So your area for this parallelogram is 77 square centimeters, or centimeters squared. So again, remember, anytime you're looking for area of any type of parallelogram, whether it be a parallelogram, a square, a rectangle, you have to start off with your formula, base times height. See you next time.